Hello and welcome. I'm glad you found your way here. Tonight, we're exploring something special, a collection of mysteries, wonders, and quiet revelations about ancient Roman bathing rituals. Take a moment to settle in. Let your breathing slow. Feel your body sink into comfort. You don't need to remember everything. Just let each fact wash over you like gentle waves. The Romans elevated bathing to an art form, a daily ritual that combined engineering genius, social connection, and pure relaxation. Tonight, we'll drift through 100 facts about these magnificent spaces, from the mysteries of their heating systems to the peaceful routines that unfolded within their walls. Some facts might intrigue you, others might simply help you relax. There's no test, no need to stay alert. Just rest, listen, and let wonder do its work. If these collections help you unwind, consider subscribing. Now, let's begin our journey into the world of Roman baths. Roman bathhouses were among the most sophisticated buildings ever constructed in the ancient world. The largest bath complexes covered areas equivalent to several city blocks, with some accommodating thousands of bathers at once. These weren't simple pools, they were architectural masterpieces that combined engineering, artistry, and an almost obsessive attention to comfort. The baths of Diocletian in Rome could hold 3,000 people simultaneously. Imagine a space that vast, filled with the soft echoes of water and quiet conversation. The secret to Roman bath heating remains one of history's most elegant engineering solutions. Beneath the floors, slaves tended furnaces that sent hot air flowing through hollow spaces under the tiles. This hypocaust system heated not just the floors, but also the walls, which were built with hollow ceramic tiles that allowed hot air to rise. The Romans essentially invented radiant floor heating 2,000 years ago. Walking into a Roman bath meant stepping onto floors warmed to a perfect, gentle heat. Here's what puzzles modern engineers. Romans achieved precise temperature control in different rooms without any measuring instruments. The caldarium maintained intense heat, the tepidarium stayed pleasantly warm, and the frigidarium kept cold water at a refreshing chill. How did they calibrate this so precisely? The answer lies partly in the thickness of floors, the distance from furnaces, and careful attention to airflow. But some of their techniques remain mysterious, their precision lost to time. Bathing wasn't a luxury for Romans, it was as essential as eating. From emperors to slaves, nearly everyone visited the baths daily. The typical Roman might spend 2 to 3 hours at the baths each afternoon, once the day's work was complete. This wasn't about hygiene alone. It was about community, relaxation, and the shared human pleasure of warm water and peace. Most public baths charged only a quadrans, the smallest Roman coin. This nominal fee meant that even the poorest citizens could afford daily bathing. Some bath complexes offered free admission on certain days, funded by wealthy patrons seeking public favor. Children often entered for free. The Romans believed that bathing, like fresh water from aqueducts, should be accessible to all. If you could stand in a Roman bathhouse, what would you hear? The gentle lap of water against marble edges. Echoing voices bouncing off high vaulted ceilings. The scrape of Strigel's metal scrapers removing oil from skin. Laughter from the pools. Splashing. The distant call of food vendors. And beneath it all, a kind of peaceful, reverberating hum, the sound of hundreds of people at ease. The baths consumed extraordinary amounts of water, millions of gallons daily in the largest complexes. This water traveled through aqueducts from mountain springs, sometimes 50 miles away. Romans prized cold mountain water for its purity and taste. The Aqua Virgo aqueduct, built to supply the baths of Agrippa, still functions today, feeding the Trevi Fountain. Water that Romans bathed in 2,000 years ago still flows through Rome's ancient channels. The apoditarium, the changing room, presented an interesting problem. How did Romans prevent theft while they bathed? Most bathers brought slaves to watch their belongings. Others used the services of bath attendants for a small fee. Archaeological evidence suggests some changing rooms had numbered niches, possibly among the world's first locker system. Yet theft remained common enough that Roman literature frequently mentions it, always with weary resignation. The air in Roman baths carried distinct fragrances. Olive oil used liberally on skin before bathing. Burning wood from the furnaces below. Incense, often burned in the rooms to mask other odors. Perfumed oils applied after bathing rose, iris, and saffron were favorites. And underneath it all, the clean mineral scent of heated water and stone. Close your eyes and imagine breathing in that ancient, layered fragrance. Romans typically exercised before entering the baths. The palestra, an outdoor exercise courtyard, adjoined most bath complexes. Here, people played ball games, practiced wrestling, lifted weights, or simply walked in the shade of columned porticos. The idea was to work up a good sweat before the cleansing process began. It was considered improper, even unhealthy, to bathe without first warming the body through movement. Romans didn't use soap as we know it. They applied olive oil to their skin, then scraped it off with a curved metal tool called a strigil. This removed dirt, sweat, and dead skin. However, some texts mention a substance called sapo, a soap-like product made from animal fats and plant ashes. Whether this was widely used or how exactly it was made remains unclear. The precise formulation disappeared with the empire. The baths were one of the few places where social classes mixed freely. A senator might find himself bathing beside a shopkeeper, a soldier next to a merchant. This democratic quality struck many observers as uniquely Roman. Of course, the wealthy could afford private baths at home, but many still preferred the grand public complexes for their social atmosphere. In the warm water, everyone was simply human. Bath water wasn't always crystal clear. Despite the constant flow from aqueducts, the water in the caldarium, the hot room, often appeared cloudy from oils and minerals. The pools were drained and cleaned regularly, but between cleanings, the water took on a milky, opalescent quality. Some Romans considered this cloudy water more luxurious, evidence of the oils and unguents used by many bathers. Others preferred the frigidarium's cold, clear water. Professional bath attendants performed various specialized services. Unctors applied oil to bathers' bodies. Tractators provided massage. Alipoli specialized in hair removal, using early forms of tweezers and depilatory pastes. These attendants developed detailed knowledge of the body, and some became wealthy from tips. The relationship between regular bathers and their preferred attendants could last decades. Bathhouses opened around midday but reached their peak in the afternoon. After the 8th hour, around 2 or 3 o'clock, the baths filled with people finishing their daily work. The light at this time slanted beautifully through high windows, catching steam and creating an almost otherworldly glow. This was the most social time, when friends met, business was conducted, and the baths truly came alive. Even now, as you rest, you can imagine that golden afternoon light on ancient stone. Most Romans followed a traditional bathing sequence through 3 main rooms. First, the tepidarium, the warm room where the body adjusted to heat gradually. Then the caldarium, the hot room with its intense heat and hot plunge pools. Finally, the frigidarium, the cold room with its bracing cold plunge to close the pores and invigorate. This progression from warm to hot to cold became a rhythmic ritual, a journey through temperature itself. Romans debated the proper sequence of bathing with surprising intensity. Some physicians recommended starting with the hot room and ending with the cold plunge. Others insisted on a gradual warming, then gradual cooling. Still others advocated alternating hot and cold repeatedly. These debates appeared in medical texts, personal letters, and philosophical discussions. The perfect bath, it seems, was a matter of perpetual discussion. The caldarium could become almost unbearably hot. Some described it as entering an oven, with temperatures possibly reaching 100 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. The room featured a large hot water pool called the alveus, and a hot water basin called the labrum for pouring water over the head and shoulders. Bathers typically didn't stay long, just enough to induce heavy sweating. The heat penetrated deep into muscles, releasing tension in waves. The tepidarium, the warm room, served as a buffer between temperature extremes. Here, the body adjusted without shock. The room maintained a gentle, ambient warmth, pleasant rather than intense. Many bathers spent the most time here, conversing with friends or simply sitting quietly. It was the most peaceful of the bathrooms, neither demanding nor bracing. Just warm, comfortable, and still. The frigidarium offered the most dramatic moment of the bathing ritual. After the caldarium's heat, stepping into cold water created an almost electrical sensation. The pool was often unheated, fed directly from cold aqueduct water. Some Romans dove in completely, others eased in gradually. The shock was believed to be healthy, closing the pores and toning the body. That gasping moment when cold water first touches overheated skin, Romans lived for that feeling. The floors of Roman baths featured some of antiquity's finest mosaics. Intricate geometric patterns covered vast expanses. Sea creatures, dolphins, fish, octopi decorated the areas around pools. Some mosaics depicted mythological scenes or famous athletes. These weren't just decoration, they were meant to be contemplated during the long, leisurely hours of bathing. Thousands of tiny colored stones, arranged with infinite patience, creating pictures that still exist today. Bath structures were built with a special concrete that actually strengthened over time when exposed to water. Modern scientists only recently discovered why. The Romans used volcanic ash in their mixture, which creates crystals when combined with seawater. These crystals continue to grow for centuries, reinforcing the structure. Our modern concrete crumbles in water. Roman concrete endures. 2,000 years later, bath ruins still stand, holding secrets we're only beginning to decode. Bath architects were masters of natural light. High clerestory windows filled rooms with daylight while maintaining privacy. Some windows faced west to capture afternoon sun, warming rooms naturally. The caldarium often featured the largest windows, allowing light to dance through steam. At certain times of day, the light transformed the space into something almost sacred. Shafts of dusty sunlight illuminating rising steam, an everyday miracle. Bath ceilings soared to impressive heights, often featuring massive vaults and domes. These weren't just aesthetic, they served practical purposes. High ceilings allowed steam and hot air to rise, keeping the lower areas more comfortable. The domes also created remarkable acoustics, making even whispers carry. Engineers designed these vast spaces using techniques that wouldn't be matched for over 1,000 years. When you stood beneath those domes, you felt simultaneously small and elevated. The average Roman had more leisure time than you might imagine. With numerous public holidays, festivals, and a shorter workday, many citizens had ample free time. The baths filled this time perfectly. They offered entertainment, social connection, exercise, and relaxation all in one place. For many Romans, the afternoon at the baths was the day's highlight, the moment when work ended and life truly began. A culture organized partly around the simple pleasure of warm water and good company. Using a strigil required skill and practice. The curved bronze or iron blade had to be held at just the right angle to scrape off oil and dirt without scratching the skin. Bathers either scraped themselves or hired attendants to do it. The technique involved long, firm strokes following the body's contours. Some strigils were beautifully decorated, becoming personal treasures passed down through families. The rhythmic scraping became a kind of meditation, a slow, careful attention to the body. Wealthy Romans brought their own fine oils to the baths. Olive oil was the base, but it might be infused with rose petals, iris root, or precious spikenard. The quality of one's oil was a subtle status marker. Poorer citizens used the basic oil provided by the bathhouse or purchased inexpensive versions from vendors. The fragrance of these oils mingled in the warm air, creating a complex, ever-changing scent. Each person's chosen fragrance adding to the atmosphere. Many business deals were negotiated in the baths. The relaxed atmosphere, the lack of formal clothing, the shared experience, all of this created conditions for frank discussion. Merchants met potential partners. Politicians gauged public opinion. Patrons and clients reinforced their relationships. Some historians argue that Rome's commercial life depended on these daily meetings in the baths. Where warm water loosened more than just muscles, it loosened tongues and opened possibilities. Larger bath complexes included library rooms. These quiet spaces allowed bathers to read between immersions. Scrolls were available on various subjects: philosophy, poetry, history, rhetoric. The combination of physical relaxation and intellectual stimulation represented a Roman ideal, a healthy mind in a healthy body. Imagine reclining in a warm room, still slightly damp, reading philosophy while the sound of distant splashing echoes softly. Vendors sold food and drink in and around the baths. Sausages, pastries, nuts, and fruit were common offerings. Wine was available, though drinking heavily in the baths was considered poor form. Some Romans brought picnic-style meals to enjoy between bathing sessions. The wealthier hired servants to bring elaborate snacks. The casual combination of food, drink, conversation, and bathing made the experience feel timeless, unhurried. While most Romans bathed in the afternoon, some preferred morning hours. The morning crowd was smaller, quieter, more contemplative. Philosophers and poets sometimes visited at dawn, seeking solitude for thought. The water was freshest then, recently replenished overnight. Morning light had a different quality: cooler, clearer, less golden. Those who bathed at dawn often described it as a spiritual practice, a way to prepare mind and body for the day. Most public baths designated separate hours for men and women. Women typically bathed in the morning, men in the afternoon. Some larger facilities had completely separate wings with duplicate amenities. A few baths allowed mixed bathing, though this was controversial and periodically banned by various emperors. The separation wasn't about modesty alone, it reflected Roman ideas about space and propriety. The baths adapted to accommodate everyone, finding rhythms that worked. Children often accompanied parents to the baths. They played in the shallower pools, learned to swim, and gradually adopted bathing rituals. For many Romans, childhood memories centered on afternoons at the baths, the echoing voices, the warm water, the sense of being part of something larger. Educational texts even used the baths as a setting for teaching, combining lessons with daily life. Generation after generation, the baths became woven into the fabric of Roman identity. Professional masseurs worked in the baths, offering various treatments. Some specialized in deep tissue work, using considerable force to release tight muscles. Others practiced gentler techniques, focusing on relaxation rather than therapeutic benefit. Warm oil was applied liberally during massage, allowing hands to glide smoothly. These treatments could last an hour or more. The combination of heat, oil, skilled hands, and time created a profound state of relaxation. The Roman writer Seneca complained bitterly about bath noise. He described the grunts of weightlifters, the smack of masseurs' hands on skin, the shouts of ball players. He mentioned the distinctive sound of hair being plucked, which caused the victim to scream. His description, though complaining, gives us a vivid audio picture of bath life. Loud, yes, but full of life, full of human sound, full of energy and activity and unguarded existence. Heating the large bath complexes required enormous amounts of fuel. Slaves constantly fed wood into furnaces beneath the floors. The baths of Caracalla alone required tons of wood daily. How did the Roman economy support this massive fuel consumption? Some scholars believe it contributed to deforestation around Rome. Others suggest efficient forest management we don't fully understand. The true economics of heating these palaces of water remains partly mysterious. Bath architects pioneered construction techniques still used today. The massive concrete vaults required centering temporary wooden supports during construction. Once the concrete cured, the supports were removed, leaving vast open spaces. The weight of these domes was distributed through carefully calculated buttressing. Roman engineers understood structural forces in ways that would be forgotten after the empire's fall. Medieval builders would look at Roman ruins and wonder how such spaces were even possible. The hypocaust furnaces burned constantly, creating their own distinctive smell. Burning wood, hot stone, heated air moving through clay pipes all combined into a scent that was uniquely Bath. Slaves working the furnaces endured intense heat and smoke. Above, in the bathing rooms, only a hint of this smoke filtered through, mixing with other scents. That faint smoky undertone beneath the perfumes and oils, the almost subliminal reminder of the fire that made comfort possible. The baths changed with the seasons. In summer, the caldarium became almost unbearably hot, and many bathers spent more time in the tepidarium or frigidarium. In winter, the hot rooms were paradise, and the cold plunge required real courage. Spring and autumn offered perfect bathing weather, moderate temperatures that made every room comfortable. Regular bathers developed preferences, becoming connoisseurs of seasonal bathing experiences. Many bath complexes included a natatio, a large open-air swimming pool. These pools could be enormous, allowing actual swimming rather than just soaking. The natatio was typically unheated, filled with fresh cold water. Swimming was considered excellent exercise, and some Romans practiced daily. In summer, the outdoor pool was crowded. In winter, only the hardiest bathers ventured in. Open sky above, cool water below, the sensation of movement through liquid, simple, primal pleasure. Ball games were popular in the bath complexes. The most common was a game called trigon, played with 3 people throwing balls rapidly between them. Another game, harpastum, resembled rugby, with teams trying to maintain possession of a small ball. These games took place in the palestra, the exercise courtyard. The sound of players shouting, balls slapping against palms, feet running this was the soundtrack of pre-bath activity. The body warming through play before the ritual of water. Some baths featured spaces for poetry readings and performances. Poets tested new verses on bath audiences. Musicians played for tips. The acoustics, already impressive for practical reasons, made these spaces natural amphitheaters. A good performer could draw a crowd, and an appreciative audience might offer generous payment. Art and daily life interpenetrating, each enriching the other. Philosophers sometimes taught in the baths. The Stoics, in particular, appreciated the baths as a place where social distinctions faded. The Epicureans valued them as a source of simple physical pleasure. Some philosophers criticized excessive bath-going as self-indulgent, but most seemed to enjoy them. Imagine discussing the nature of virtue while soaking in warm water. The juxtaposition of high thought and physical comfort very Roman. Like all public spaces in Rome, the baths accumulated graffiti. Declarations of love, political slogans, crude jokes, advertisements for services. Some graffiti was scratched into stone, some painted. Archaeologists treasure these informal writings. They reveal ordinary thoughts of ordinary people. 2,000 years later, we can read that Marcus was here, and know that yes, Marcus was here, and now so are we. Ancient texts mention various bath rituals whose details have been lost. References to special scrapings for different skin conditions. Particular sequences of hot and cold immersion for medical treatment. Oils applied in specific orders for beauty purposes. These specialized practices, passed down through apprenticeship rather than writing, disappeared when the bath culture ended. Somewhere in history's shadows, knowledge that took centuries to refine simply vanished. The baths of Caracalla, completed in 216 CE, exemplified imperial ambition. The complex covered 27 acres and accommodated up to 1,600 bathers simultaneously. The main building alone was larger than several modern city blocks. It included 2 libraries, gardens, art galleries, and shops. The ruins still stand in Rome, massive walls reaching toward the sky. To walk among those ruins is to feel the weight of human aspiration, the desire to build something magnificent, something lasting. The low cost of admission meant baths operated on thin profit margins. Additional revenue came from fees for special services, concessions, and rental of spaces. Many bath complexes were built and maintained by wealthy benefactors as public works. Operating a successful public bath was considered honorable public service rather than primarily a business venture. The Roman concept that some things like access to water and warmth should be available to all. Roman physicians developed elaborate theories about bathing's health benefits. Hot water was believed to open the pores, allowing harmful humors to escape. Cold water closed the pores, sealing in vital heat. Different temperatures suited different constitutions and seasons. While the underlying theory was wrong, the practice alternating temperatures, cleansing, exercise did promote health. Sometimes the right practice emerges from wrong reasons. Some bath complexes remained open after sunset, illuminated by oil lamps. Evening bathing had a different atmosphere, quieter, more mysterious. Flickering lamplight played across water and stone. Shadows deepened. Voices softened. Those who bathed at night often described it as almost dreamlike. The same spaces transformed by darkness and lamplight into something intimate, something sacred. When the Western Roman Empire fell, bath culture largely disappeared in Western Europe. The infrastructure required aqueducts, heating systems, maintenance couldn't be sustained. Medieval Europeans rarely bathed by Roman standards. But in the Eastern Roman Empire, and later in Islamic civilizations, bath culture continued and evolved. The hammam, the Turkish bath, descends directly from Roman practice. So in a way, the tradition never truly died. It merely moved, adapted, and endured. Even now, as you rest, water still flows through some of Rome's ancient aqueducts. Stone baths still stand beneath open sky. Let yourself drift deeper into comfort, as Romans once drifted in warm water. The frigidarium's water came directly from aqueducts, unheated and bracing. In summer, this might be pleasantly cool around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. In winter, it could be genuinely shocking, perhaps as cold as 45 degrees. Romans debated the health benefits of the cold plunge endlessly. Some physicians claimed it strengthened the body. Others warned it could harm those with weak constitutions. But most agreed. That moment of cold water after intense heat felt magnificent. While the baths mixed social classes, status remained visible. The wealthy arrived with retinues of slaves carrying oils, towels, and strigils. They might reserve private rooms for more exclusive bathing. Their oils smelled finer. Their towels were softer linen. But in the pools themselves, naked in warm water, these distinctions faded. For a few hours, shared experience mattered more than rank. After Rome's fall, the ability to build structures like the Great Baths was simply lost. Medieval builders couldn't replicate the vast concrete domes. They didn't understand the heating systems, the specialized knowledge held by architects, engineers, and skilled workers disappeared as demand ended. Not until the Renaissance would European builders begin to approach Roman structural capabilities again. 12 centuries of lost knowledge, skills that took generations to develop, gone in a lifetime. Bath complexes featured sophisticated plumbing throughout. Lead pipes brought fresh water to pools. Drainage systems carried away used water. Some pools had constant flow through systems, maintaining water quality. Others used settling tanks that allowed sediment to collect before water entered pools. The engineering involved calculating water pressure, flow rates. Drainage capacity represented advanced hydraulic knowledge. 2,000 years before modern plumbing, Romans had running hot and cold water. As the empire declined, bath maintenance became expensive and difficult. Aqueducts damaged by war weren't repaired. Furnaces went cold for lack of fuel and slaves to tend them. One by one, great bath complexes closed. The buildings remained too massive to demolish but empty, silent. Pools that once held hundreds stood dry. That silence, after centuries of echoing voices and splashing water, must have been profound. Incense was burned throughout the baths, particularly in the cooler rooms. Frankincense and myrrh were common choices. Local herbs rosemary, lavender, sage were burned for their pleasant aromas. The smoke drifted through rooms, carried by air currents from the heating system. This created a layered atmosphere, warm, fragrant, slightly hazy. Breathe slowly and imagine that ancient scent. Resin smoke, herb smoke, the smell of sanctuary. Roman physicians prescribed specific bathing regimens for various ailments. Joint pain, long immersion in hot water. Melancholy, regular social bathing. Insomnia, evening bathing followed by massage. Poor circulation, alternating hot and cold water. While the theoretical basis was questionable, many treatments did help. Water, warmth, and human touch, powerful medicine then, powerful medicine now. Each morning, bath workers cleaned and prepared the facilities. Pools were drained, scrubbed, and refilled. Floors were swept and mopped. Lamps were refilled with oil. Incense was prepared. Fresh towels were stacked. This daily renewal ensured that each afternoon's bathing began in freshness. The unseen labor that made luxury possible. Larger bath complexes included smaller, shallower pools designed for children. These were typically cooler than the adult caldarium but warmer than the frigidarium. Children learned to swim here, played water games, and began absorbing bath culture. For many Roman children, the baths were as familiar as home. A place of safety, warmth, and belonging. A second home that welcomed all. Ancient texts mention various swimming strokes and techniques. Some descriptions match modern strokes, breaststroke, and a form of front crawl. Others describe methods we can't quite visualize from the written descriptions. Swimming was considered an essential skill, included in military training and general education. The phrase, "he can neither swim nor read," meant someone completely uneducated. But exactly how Romans swam, the specific techniques that felt natural to them, has largely been forgotten. The question of bathing while sick generated considerable debate. Some physicians recommended avoiding baths during fever, believing heat would worsen the condition. Others prescribed specific mild bathing routines. Many Romans defied medical advice and bathed anyway, believing it helped them feel better. The baths were so integral to daily routine that avoiding them felt unnatural. Sometimes comfort matters more than medical theory. Romans had numerous specialized words for bathing activities. Different terms for scraping, massaging, oiling, swimming, and soaking. Specific words for different types of bath attendants. Distinct names for each room and its function. This rich vocabulary reflected how central bathing was to Roman life. You need words for what matters, and bathing mattered deeply. Early Roman baths were simpler, smaller affairs. Over centuries, they grew more elaborate, more luxurious, more technically sophisticated. Each generation of architects learned from the previous one, pushing boundaries. By the 3rd century CE, bath complexes had become almost absurdly grand. This architectural evolution reflected growing wealth, yes, but also growing ambition. The desire to create something magnificent, something that would last. Roman literature frequently mentions the baths. Poets described chance encounters there. Historians noted political meetings. Satirists mocked bath pretensions. The baths appear in comedies, epics, personal letters, and philosophical treatises. They were simply part of the backdrop of Roman life, mentioned as naturally as we might mention grocery stores or coffee shops. Present, assumed, essential. The labrum was a large basin in the caldarium, filled with cold water. Bathers poured this cold water over their heads while in the hot room. Why? Modern scholars aren't entirely sure. Some suggest it prevented overheating. Others propose it was believed to seal the pores opened by heat. It may have simply felt refreshing and Romans kept doing it because it felt good. Not everything requires deep explanation. Sometimes pleasure is reason enough. The palestra wasn't just for exercise, it was also a social space. People gathered here before bathing, greeting friends, discussing daily events. The covered porticos around the exercise yard provided shade for conversation. Benches lined the walls. The palestra served as a kind of social foyer, an introduction to the bathing experience. First movement and interaction, then cleansing and relaxation. A natural progression. Bath hours changed with the seasons. In summer, baths might open earlier and close later to accommodate the heat. In winter, hours were shorter, focused on the warmest part of the afternoon. This flexibility acknowledged that bathing was about comfort, and comfort meant different things in different seasons. The rhythms of Roman life followed the sun, adjusted to the weather, remained flexible and human-scaled. Building a public bath was a powerful political statement. Wealthy politicians funded bath construction to gain public favor. Emperors built the grandest baths to demonstrate imperial power and generosity. The message was clear: I provide for you. I give you comfort. Remember my name. And Romans did remember. The baths of Trajan, the baths of Caracalla, the baths of Diocletian. Names preserved in the buildings they created for the people. Not all bath time was social. Some Romans sought solitude there, using the space for meditation and thought. A quiet corner of the tepidarium could provide peaceful isolation. The sounds faded to background, a gentle acoustic backdrop for internal reflection. Even in a crowded public space, one could find moments of profound aloneness. The paradox of solitude in community, present with others yet deeply within yourself. Bath walls and pools were often lined with marble. Different colors indicated different functions: white marble for cold rooms, darker stones for hot spaces. The stone was polished smooth where bathers touched it frequently. In less used areas, you could feel the natural texture of the stone. Marble stays cool to the touch, even in warm rooms. That contrast: cool stone, warm air, hot water, created complex sensory experience. You can almost feel it now as you rest. Cool marble beneath your hand. Warm air around you. Let yourself sink deeper into comfort. Medical opinion varied on how often one should bathe. Some physicians recommended daily bathing. Others cautioned against excessive bathing, claiming it weakened the body. A few suggested bathing every other day as optimal. Most Romans ignored this advice and bathed daily anyway. When something feels good and harms nothing, why not do it daily? Post-bath, many Romans described a particular feeling of well-being. The body relaxed and warm, the skin soft and clean, the mind peaceful. This state relaxed alertness, physical comfort, mental clarity was prized. Some said the post-bath hour was the best time for important decisions. The body at ease, the mind untroubled, the spirit open. Water sounds filled the baths constantly. The rush of water from spouts, the lap of water against pool edges, the splash of swimmers, the gentle drip of condensation, water being poured from jugs. These sounds created a sonic environment unlike anywhere else. Close your eyes in the baths, and you were surrounded by water music. Natural, constant, soothing. For elderly Romans, the baths provided particular benefits. Warm water eased arthritic joints. The social environment combated isolation. Massage helped maintain flexibility. Many elderly Romans made the baths their primary daily activity, spending hours there. The baths gave them purpose, routine, community, and relief from physical discomfort. A place where age brought no disadvantage, only the wisdom of long experience with pleasure. Did Roman bathing actually improve health? The question is harder to answer than you might think. Regular cleansing certainly helped prevent skin disease. But bathing in shared pools could also spread infection. The social benefits reduced stress, community connection likely promoted well-being. Exercise before bathing was clearly beneficial. Overall, Romans were probably healthier for their bath culture, but not for all the reasons they thought. Roman mosaics and frescoes often depicted bathing scenes. Athletes in the palestra, bathers in pools, attendants providing services, sea creatures decorating pool edges. These images weren't just decorative, they instructed newcomers in proper bath etiquette and celebrated the bath experience. Art reinforcing culture, culture inspiring art, each enriching the other. Standing in bath ruins today, you can feel time's passage. These stones were touched by countless hands. These pools held thousands upon thousands of bodies. Voices echoed here. Laughter rang. Business was conducted. Friendships formed. For centuries, life flowed through these spaces. And then silence. But the stones remember. Romans noticed that bathing affected sleep. Evening bathing, particularly, promoted deep rest. The body temperature rise followed by gradual cooling naturally induces drowsiness. The relaxation of muscles helps sleep come easier. Modern sleep science confirms this. Warm bathing before bed improves sleep quality. 2,000 years ago, Romans knew this instinctively. Warmth, then coolness, then rest. Winter transformed the bath experience. The contrast between cold exterior air and warm interior became more dramatic. Steam rose more visibly in cold air. The hot rooms became even more inviting. Many Romans reported that winter bathing felt most luxurious, the warmth more precious for the cold outside. Stepping from winter street into heated bath like entering another world. The social dynamics within baths were remarkably complex. Regular bathers recognized each other, nodded greetings, developed bath friendships. Certain areas became associated with certain groups. Unwritten rules governed behavior. Newcomers learned these customs through observation. Every complex society develops its own micro-society, and the baths were complex indeed. Hair removal was popular among both Roman men and women. The baths offered services from specialized attendants called alipoli. Methods included plucking with tweezers, which was apparently quite painful. Depilatory pastes made from quicklime were also used, though these could burn the skin. Some Romans shaved. The preference for smooth skin reflected aesthetic ideals we can still recognize. Beauty standards changing and yet remaining somehow familiar across millennia. Privacy, as we understand it, barely existed in Roman baths. Bathing was communal by design. Even toilets within bath complexes were communal rows of seats with no partitions. This lack of privacy didn't bother most Romans. They'd grown up with it. It was simply normal. Different cultures draw different lines around privacy. Roman lines were drawn very differently from ours. Marcus Agrippa built Rome's first major public bath in 25 BCE. This set the template for all subsequent bath complexes. Agrippa made his baths free to the public, a revolutionary gesture. He also built the aqueduct to supply them with water. His baths established that bathing was a public service, not just a private luxury. One man's vision became an empire's culture. Bath attendants used various medicinal preparations. Plasters for sore muscles, ointments for skin conditions, special oils for joint pain. The recipes for many of these preparations have been lost. Ancient texts mention them but rarely give full ingredients or proportions. More knowledge vanished, more skills forgotten. The very wealthy sometimes built elaborate private baths at home. These might include all the features of public baths but scaled down. Having a private bath was the ultimate status symbol. Yet, even the richest often visited public baths for the social experience. Privacy had its place, but so did community. Even luxury couldn't replace the simple pleasure of being among others. Bath visits followed predictable rhythms. Arrival and greeting, changing and oiling, exercise in the palestra, progression through the heated rooms, scraping and massage, swimming or final soaking, drying and redressing. This ritual, repeated daily, became as natural as breathing. The rhythm of water, the rhythm of warmth, the rhythm of rest. Some Romans experienced the baths as almost spiritual. The combination of warmth, water, quiet time, and physical pleasure created a meditative state. Certain philosophical schools even used bath time for contemplative practices. The body's contentment freed the mind to wander and wonder. Perhaps the baths were temples after all, not to gods but to human well-being. Roman bath culture influenced later civilizations. Byzantine baths continued Roman traditions. Islamic hammams adapted the model. European spa culture in the 18th and 19th centuries consciously imitated Roman practices. Modern spa design still references Roman baths. The idea persists that warm water and time can heal, that bathing is more than hygiene, that we need spaces dedicated to comfort. When a bath complex closed for repairs or cleaning, Romans felt the absence. Letters complain about temporary closures. People traveled to other baths, finding them unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Regular bathers grew attached to particular baths, particular rooms, particular corners. Place matters. Ritual matters. The familiar brings comfort. Many Romans ended their bath session with a long, final soak in the tepidarium. Not the dramatic heat of the caldarium or the shock of the frigidarium. Just warm, comfortable water. Time to sit, to think or not think, to let the afternoon's activities settle. The perfect ending, neither too much nor too little, just right. We're winding down now, drifting toward the end of our journey through Roman bathing rituals. Just a few more facts, then rest. The Romans built magnificent baths at natural hot springs throughout their empire. At Bath in England, Aquae Sulis hot springs still flow at 115 degrees Fahrenheit. The Romans channeled these natural springs into elaborate bath complexes. How they controlled such hot water, mixing it to safe temperatures without modern thermometers, remains impressive. Their engineering intuition was extraordinary. As Roman civilization declined, bath culture faded gradually. Some baths remained in use for generations after the empire's fall. Eventually, maintenance became impossible. Aqueducts broke. Roofs collapsed. The last Romans to bathe in the ancient style did so without knowing they were the last. Traditions end not with drama but with quiet fading. Modern archaeologists have learned much from bath ruins. Drain systems reveal what Romans ate: seeds and olive pits washed down drains. Graffiti shows everyday thoughts and concerns, where patterns on stone indicate which routes people preferred. Even ruins tell stories if you know how to read them. The past never completely disappears. It leaves traces. Romans living in later times remembered the baths with nostalgia. Medieval writers described them with wonder and sadness. The buildings stood as reminders of a lost sophistication. People couldn't believe such spaces had once been freely available to all. Memory of comfort, of community, of a time when civilization meant something different. Why did Romans bathe so much? Was it hygiene, social connection, physical pleasure, medical belief? The answer is probably all of these and none of them. They bathed because it felt right, because it brought pleasure, because everyone did. Sometimes culture needs no deeper explanation than shared experience and simple joy. At its core, Roman bath culture was about providing warmth. Physical warmth from heated water and rooms. Social warmth from community and connection. The warmth of care someone built this, maintains this, provides this for you. A culture that values warmth is a culture that values life. In the baths, time moved differently. The progression through rooms marked time, yes. But within each room, time could stretch or compress. Peaceful hour in warm water. 5 minutes that felt endless. Time measured not by clocks but by sensation and comfort. Perhaps that's what we've lost most, that sense of time belonging to us rather than us belonging to time. Strip away the engineering marvels, the social complexity, the medical theories. What remains is simple: warm water feels good. Being clean feels good. Relaxed muscles feel good. Romans built an entire culture around this simple truth. Sometimes civilization's greatest achievements come from honoring the simplest pleasures. If you visit Roman bath ruins today, close your eyes and listen. Traffic sounds fade. Bird calls echo off ancient stone. Wind moves through empty rooms. And if you listen very carefully, you can almost hear it. The memory of water. The echo of voices. The ghosts of 2,000 years of daily joy. 2,000 years later, what remains of Roman bath culture? The ruins, yes. The engineering knowledge, partly. The historical record, incompletely. But most importantly, the idea remains. The idea that we deserve comfort. That community matters. That taking time for physical pleasure and social connection isn't frivolous, it's essential. That lesson from ancient Rome still echoes, still matters, still teaches us how to live. We've drifted through 100 mysteries and revelations tonight. Some you may remember, others will fade like dreams. And that's perfectly fine. These aren't facts to memorize or puzzles to solve. They're invitations to wonder. Reminders that the past holds surprises. That humans have always sought comfort, community, and warmth. You are connected to this history. The desire for warm water and peace isn't new. It echoes through time. From Roman bathers to you, resting now, the thread remains unbroken. So let yourself rest now. Let these mysteries settle like sediment in still water. Dream, perhaps, of marble pools and golden afternoon light. Of warmth and water and time moving slowly. Sleep well. And thank you for wondering with us.